Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of Movie Monday. This week, after 3 months-ish of watching Death Note, the anime series, I sat down and watched Death Note, the Netflix movie that came out last month, August. It came out in August, so a month and a half ago now. I was hoping I would have the anime done kind of leading up right into that, but that took longer than I was anticipating. But better late than never. For me, the Death Note movie that Netflix put together fails because it tries to cash in on the audience and the popularity of the original source material, be it the manga or the anime. But it is, at the same time, just a very pale imitation of why such products built up such a wonderful audience and in the first place. You have very few moments in the film that really invoke its anime inspiration, and ultimately I think Netflix's version features almost as many cliches as it does its body count. The fact that this movie was going to be a tie-in was certainly one of the initial reasons I chose the original Death Note as kind of my first jumping off point in anime. I figured it would instinctively and inherently give me, something to compare against. I would have kind of that as my Saturday show, and I would have this movie eventually to watch for Movie Monday. And when compared against the anime, this Death Note is just a significant letdown. In the anime, you have academic and athletic superstar Light Yagami as your protagonist / anti-hero kind of character, and instead here he is swapped out for Light Turner because the setting has also been moved from Japan to Seattle. And where Light Yagami was an overly calculated, often stoic individual, Light Turner here is immediately introduced as a hothead who uses his quote-unquote intellect to cheat for other students. But we very clearly, in one of the establishing shots, see him handing a half-done test or piece of homework or something to somebody because the props designer and the cameraman went ahead and focused on this half-completed thing. So Light's not even good at cheating for other people. Light Yagami was interested in creating a new world without evil and using the Death Note power to do so, while Light Turner is interested in winning over the most emo cheerleader since Eliza Dushku's turn in Bring It On. Mia serves as Light's love interest and is almost entirely unrecognizable to her anime counterpart, Misa Amani. Miso was obsessed with Light and fawned over him and was ready to do whatever he wished, whereas Mia is established as an angsty cheerleader who smokes in her opening establishing shot just to show how edgy she is, but then never again. Light immediately tells her about this new power that he's received in this Death Note that can kill anybody with just their name and you thinking about the person, and she is actually, to her credit, is the one that kind of wants to create the new world that we're kind of expecting from Light Yagami's kind of vision. She's the one that wants to really be the driver, but Light kind of pushes against that, and that's where a lot of their conflict comes from. I would almost say it's an interesting role reversal in the characters, except the film doesn't go anywhere with it. It just kind of, it throws that idea out there and then just falters. Unsurprisingly for me, I think the two brightest performances are the characters that are kind of kept closest to their inspiration. You have L played with a lot of the same awkward, antisocial tendencies that fans of the anime are going to recognize. He's easily kind of the closest to his wunderkind, antisocial anime counterpart, and his relationship with caregiver Watari is actually far more touching than anything I think we see from Mia and Light as a couple. On the other hand, you have a vocal performance from Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, the death god, the Shinigami, which I don't think they actually use the word Shinigami in this iteration. And while in the anime I think I see Ryuk as much more of a trickster, observer, kind of passive character who has kind of given Light this ability, this power, but kind of stays mostly hands-off. The iteration that we get from the Netflix version is much more sadistic in quality and kind of almost revels in the gore that we get to see in these deaths. And we do see a lot more gore and violent deaths in this iteration of Death Note than we ever saw in the entirety of the run of the anime. The first one out, you see a guy whose head is sheared off, and you see the whole thing, and so it's unsettling and feels more like they went in the direction of shock value gore than interesting developments of its characters. Nonetheless, Defoe's creepy delivery is perfectly suited for this character, and the demon's design, wisely kept in the shadows for the most part, remains unsettling from beginning to end, and is a wonderful realization of the original character design and the otherworldly feel of Ryuk. It really is almost unfair to continue comparing the film to the anime, as the team clearly feels like they wanted to make their own spin on the story, but they cling so tightly to poor imitations of its base material that it's unavoidable to compare the two, much in the same way that comparisons between Star Trek Into Darkness were unavoidable with The Wrath of Khan because they leaned so much into Wrath of Khan. Here, Death Note leans so much into the original source material, but doesn't go far enough with it, and makes changes that just kind of ultimately hinder its own story that it's trying to tell. I would have much rather seen, if you wanted to tell like an Americanized version of this story, I would have much rather seen tell a different story. Don't tell me the story of Light and L again. You can even keep Ryuk in there, but have somebody else find the Death Note. Have Mia have found the Death Note and then tell us what that story becomes. Don't give me such a shadow image of the superior version. One of the things that's really great about the original anime is the dynamic between Light and L. It's very cat and mouse. It's very cerebral, and you're always trying to see who knows what and who's one step ahead of who. But here, Light's plan is just so sloppy in its execution, and he's driven by his lust after Mia and his personal vendettas that, of course, L was going to figure out it was him. Only in the closing moments of the movie do we really get anything near the kind of cleverness and calculation that Light Yagami possesses in our Light Turner in here. And by then it's far too late to even matter. Another one of the main issues I have with the film is that it plays very fast and loose with the rules of the Death Note itself, adding arbitrary rules at certain points to spark a conflict between Light and Mia, but at the same time it creates its own biggest possible plot hole by allowing a shortcut to the main rule that you need the person's name to, write them into the Death Note. Minor spoiler for the film, but if you can control Watari with just Watari as the name, why can't you just write L into the book and kill him? They were going to undeniably need to make adjustments to cram down what is probably effectively a third of the anime into this hour and 40-minute film, but an adjustment like that is the wrong one to make. Really, the best compliment I can give Netflix's version of Death Note is that it gave me a reason to watch the original anime, and despite my issues with that series' back half and kind of closing chapters, it was a far better use of my time than this kind of waste of a really interesting idea. So those are my thoughts on the Netflix Death Note movie. Let me know what yours are in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can read my full written review of this film over at TrevorTrove.com and the link in the description below. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.